kind of the evolution of Dynasty and what we've noticed over the last couple of years. I mentioned earlier in the show how people are reading more content. They're becoming smarter in their drafts. They're making better decisions, and that obviously leads then to it's harder in Dynasty to make those trades that you might have gained a little bit of extra value. So, what are some of the evolving parts or the evolution of Dynasty that you've noticed over the last couple of years, Mike?
I know for the leagues I play and the people I play with, like best ball is just so massive for Dynasty because it's this weird combination of being really obsessive at certain periods of time where there's nothing better than going through and offering trades to all sorts of trades to your league, or there's nothing better than preparing for the rookie draft. But I mean, in season's tough. If you want to do multiple dynasty leagues, it's just really hard to manage weekly waivers and stuff. So I've definitely seen people move towards best ball. The appetite for dynasty is there more. The leagues I absolutely love to play in, as far as like non leagues that I'm starting myself or non local leagues, are the RotoViz Triflex leagues on FFPC. I did 2 of those startups last year. Those are awesome leagues. And I think can have a huge edge in those leagues, just understanding the depth that you need. I did one with Karain and one by myself. And both of them just traded down so much and had this huge depth, and people like just not understanding the combination of deeper starting rosters with best ball scoring, like what that does for you. So I love those leagues. But yeah, the appetite for Dynasty everywhere is bigger. We're doing more content for it over at Establish Your Run. We got Anthony and Miko doing our rankings. And it's also like everything's super flex, which is great. It's nice to see it move in that direction.
Well, I would agree with all those, and Dynasty is just so much fun. I appreciate the mention of the RotoViz Triflex leagues. I just had an article come out looking at the 3 teams that I did with Blair, Ben, and Monty, and kind of how those look, what the approach would be. Got a big Dynasty workshop coming out over the next month that'll go through so many different elements of it and how you can build this Dynasty. And what I like to talk about when we talk about on Stealing Bananas in terms of the permanent championship window. And so, Mike, I think that this league has been interesting to see how different teams have evolved. You mentioned that some of the teams got stuck a little bit being in the middle, and yet there is some potential for those teams to maybe now be consistently good, depending on what they do. Is there anything like specifically from this league or just some other things that you've done that would change your personal dynasty approach as you go through here? And or, I mean, to be good at the different elements of fantasy, I think it's valuable to not just like have one way that you play Dynasty, one way that you play best ball, et cetera, but what are some of the things now or the approaches that you like to mix? I mean, what would be your balance of the way that you attack Dynasty leagues?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things I have in the back of my mind when I'm playing Dynasty, and you really see it play out when you've been involved 3-4 years plus in some of these leagues, and Pat Crane like really instilled this in me, is like just think of the trade value of the player year out, like having that kind of focus. So just like you're not trying to project a player for 3+ years, but you are just having an awareness of what could they do this year combined with their age and kind of how people felt about him going into the year, to just have this gauge of what are you going to be able to do with this player in a year, because it's hard. You don't have a lot of ways to roster build, especially in the leagues I'm doing where there's less free agency activity. I mean, it's the rookie free agent draft and trading, and those go hand to hand. That, and something that's more specific that I'm thinking through more, is how to attack quarterback in these super flex leagues, particularly super flex best ball, where the scarcity is very real. And I did a league with Pat, the RotoViz Triflex league, where hopefully we're set. We have Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones, and hopefully we're set for a long time, and not having to worry about those positions could be such a huge edge. But we struggled year one. My other RotoViz Triflex league, I won the league, but I did it with Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and Ben Roethlisberger. And now I'm, I have a pretty dominant team, but like I have a pretty big hole at the most important position. And as we've seen in my rebuild in the league that we made the trade, Shawn, taking that cheap quantity approach at quarterback, it might work for a couple years, but you start to see the value of these assets that are just going to help you for 10 years. So I don't have a good answer as to the best way to approach that, but I'm probably more open to investing more premium dollars into quarterback than I was 2 years ago in some of these startup leagues.
It's interesting that you mentioned that with Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, because those players are pretty heavily represented on my RotoViz.
Yeah, they could be fine. I literally don't have a third though, which for best ball too, like you need 3, and managed versus best ball is huge. I'm in a managed league where it's super flex, and I just moved Justin Fields and Chase Claypool for AJ Brown because I've got Jalen Hurts, I've got Tua, I've got a draft pick that I can use on Malik Willis, and I can once in a while get a quarterback off waivers. Like it's a lot different managed versus best ball at that quarterback position.
And I think that even though there's some risk, again, we talk about kind of benefiting from the wide range of outcomes guys. And if you hit, then you're in very good shape. The prices for those QBs, and they could still hit. I mean, Wilson looks pretty sketchy at the moment, but if you do hit at the price, then you're set for a long time. Some chances to add some more guys in there. So
did you enjoy that clip? Make sure you hit that subscribe button to get more content from RotoViz. And of course, you can check out full-length podcasts at rotoviz.com/podcast. Available on all podcast platforms. Check out our wide range of content. Once again, rotoviz.com/podcast.